Pitter patter. This is part 2 of getting clients. Part 2. There's no use doing part 2 of getting clients unless you've done part 1. And part 1 was your lean business plan and to know who your clients were. You guys remember that? Lean business plan, you have to know who your clients are, you have to know what their problem is, and they have to be amenable to your solution. That was part 1 2 weeks ago, right? So you've had time, and some of you have already reached out to me to go through your lean canvas with you. Some of you have already been in contact and booked 30-minute sessions to review your lean canvas. So I encourage you, if you haven't done your lean canvas for your coaching practice, do it. Do it. It'll save you a lot of grief down the road. After having taught that class that night, I redid my canvas for the trauma team. And it is illuminating every time I do it, right? Probably should do it every 6 months, redo your canvas. Re-canvas your clients to see that the problem's still a problem. Re-solicit your clients to make sure your solution's still an appropriate solution. And re-solicit your market to know that your price point's right, right? So that was 2 weeks ago. And there's no use, I think it's absolutely stupid to talk about or spend money on marketing if you don't know who your client is. You might as well walk outside with a stack of $100 bills and throw it up in the air and walk away. I really and truly believe that. I hear people talking about spending thousands of dollars a month, month after month after month on social media, ad spends on Facebook, ad spends on Google. When I say, who is your client? Well, it's not that easy, Alan. I sort of serve this big body. No bullshit. You just haven't taken the time to identify who your client is and to make it really, really clear. Okay, Laura, I hope you don't have small children running around behind you because I'll dial back the vernacular a little bit. Sometimes Larissa is making dinner with small children. I need to have an icon. So when you have kids amongst you, you put up a kid icon. Or maybe I could just be like Richard Bandler and say, hey, I'm going to roll the way I roll. Anyways, in the back of the car. So here we go. So tonight we're going to talk about, so now you've identified your avatar. You're actually sure about who you're going after, 100%. And you know what their problems are, and they like your solution, and they like your price point. Now we're going to talk about marketing. And the first thing you need to know about marketing is time management. We're going to talk about some time management things. I'm not going to give you time management skills. I'm going to give you some, I don't want your dog repeating this either, Laura. But we're going to talk about managing your time. Then we're going to talk about channels to attract your client through. That's one of the boxes on your lean canvas was channels, right? Then we're going to talk about when is a client to client. Then I'm going to go over very quickly my 6-step decision maker. It gets me to yes or no with everybody I talk to. And if they say no, I walk away. When I do this 6-step decision maker, if a person says no, there's no use me trying to prattle on and trying to convince them to do, because I might be able to convince them to do something. They will be my worst nightmare. And the people who say yes are all in, right? And I think that's important to get a prospective person to yes or no. I don't want to waste my time talking to people who are actually no. So this 6-step decision maker is beautiful. And then the bonus at about 7:30, we're being joined by a guy who has hypnosis training, NLP Master Prac training. He runs a fabulously successful smoking cessation clinic, and he runs a fabulously successful weight loss program. And he has a 95% close rate. He converts 95% of his discovery calls into clients. And I'm going to suggest to you, he does that. One reason is he's gifted and he'll share his gifts. But the second reason is he's talking to his clients. He is not talking to his not clients. Nothing worse than talking to your not clients. Nothing worse than doing 4 or 5 discovery calls to your not clients. And if you don't know who your client is, I'm going to guarantee you will spend a lot of time talking to your not clients. And then you'll get frustrated and you'll say, I don't have any clients, because you won't, right? You can't have clients when you're talking to your not clients, and you'll blow yourself up. So that's what we're going to do tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we better get rolling, right? And Tanya, yes, I'm recording. I remember to record. Well, you're normally the one who prompts me. Should you be recording, Alan? And I go, oh, shit. Phooey, I'm not recording. All right, time management. High level. Regardless of what business you are in, the big person, the head person, the leader of the organization, whether it is profit or nonprofit, the job of the head of the company, and you guys are all the head of your own organization, is to ensure there's enough money coming in to pay the bills and to put some money in your pocket. That's your number one job. In a corporation or in an NGO, the president or the executive director spends up to 70% of their time making sure cash flow is coming in. I'll say that again. In a nonprofit, successful nonprofit, the executive director will spend up to 70% of their time making sure cash is coming in through donors, through loans, through grants, through fee for service. And in a for-profit company, the CEO of successful for-profit companies make sure revenue is coming in. That's their job. And not only is it their job, they have a legal fiduciary duty to make sure a lot of it comes in. So they maximize stakeholders. So in terms of your time, though, you're a coach. You can't spend 70% of your time attracting clients, making sure the money comes in, because you're also the person who's doing the service delivery. But you have to spend a substantial amount of your time. And you say, okay, how much time am I going to spend getting clients in? Now, I think where you need to spend your time is in discovery calls with a high conversion. And I would recommend to you that you're going to do at least 16 hours a week on discovery calls, 30-minute calls, 32 calls a week. And if you're actually talking to your client and you have a 50% or higher conversion rate, you're going to get a lot of clients. Right? Now, once you get a lot of clients, you're going to coach. You don't want to make clients happy. You want to make happy clients. There's a difference. I can make anybody happy in a nanosecond, right? You can make people smile and laugh and everything. I can make clients happy, but I want to make happy clients. And as a coach, if you want to make, let's say as a coach, you want to make $120,000 a year. And you want to work 40 weeks a year, right? So that means you need to make $3,000 a week. So that is $150 per hour times 20 hours of coaching. So now we're at 36 hours. And you want to retain clients. So you have some sort of value ladder. So they're coming back for more. Now, this may be automated, right? This may be automated. So as you're working with them here, making happy clients, you're telling them about what else is available. But remember, from the first week, we talked about this. You want to attract clients, make happy clients, and then retain clients. So you have to ask yourself, how many hours of work I'm going to spend retaining clients, because these clients are the most profitable. A repeat client is the most profitable. These are the most expensive clients. These are the most profitable clients. And then you've got to do administrative work. And it's going to be a couple hours a week, especially if you do this. delegate. So you're just managing the function. And as a coach, how much admin do you have? If you have a website provider, somebody who's built your website, and you talk to them once a month about how's the website doing, how's the traffic doing. If you've got a bookkeeper and you talk to her or him once a month, right? The other admin things that you have to do, buy supplies. If you have an office, we have an office, so we have to buy supplies. So you have to manage your time. And my point here is, I think you should be coaching somewhere around 50% of your time. And that leaves 50% of time for these other things. And the number one thing you need in the beginning is this. As your business grows, your referrals and your retention will grow. And then you might back this out to 8 hours a week doing discovery calls, because this has now created a sustainable income. So that's an idea of time management, right? That's an idea of time management. A lot of people spend hours and hours and hours doing admin, getting the words right, getting the images right, doing that other thing, all the stuff and all the stuff. Delegate that. You can hire that out at 25 bucks an hour, 40 bucks an hour. You earn 150 an hour. Don't do $40 an hour jobs when you make 150. Don't do it. If you're doing $40 an hour work when you're worth 150, you're giving up $110 per hour. Why would you do that? Why? Right? Why? So that's time management. Anybody have any questions about that?
Hey, Alan, I totally do. Thank you so much. So for 150 an hour, so I have prac and core transformation, and I'm just starting. Like, do you recommend charging that immediately? And also, how does that relate to like a package such as a breakthrough? Would that still be equivalent to the 150 an hour?
Yeah. So our prac pace grads, I tell them they should charge $1,500 for a 12-hour breakthrough.
Perfect. Thank you.
So that's $125 an hour, right?
Okay.
And for our prac master prac grads, or for our prac pace master prac, or prac pace, like you've done a lot of work in core transformation, so you understand more about personal development and other modalities. Just under 2,000, $19.95 for a breakthrough. So you're at about $166 an hour.
Okay.
And in fact, once you get to prac, master prac, and pace, $2,500 should be your minimum. You're talking about Tara. Tara's a master prac, a core transformation trainer. She charges $2,650 a breakthrough, $195 an hour. And for somebody like me, I'm on the low end of the pay scale because of where I've chosen to work. I charge $250 an hour. So I'm a trainer and I do pace. I'm a pace trainer. All right. And all our grads, when they've decided to coach, have been able to get that. All our
awesome.
Grads. And I've seen people leave prac in the States, and if they're good at what they do, if they can hold space and create results, they can charge almost whatever they want, within reason.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think I'm feeling some tension between the breakthrough and the personal coaching. Like, I know that my time provides immense value for people, and I do have some fear around what if I charge someone a set fee for 12 hours and we don't achieve the evidence procedure yet for getting rid of anger or whatever they come in with.
Then at your level of skill set, I'd throw more hours in. I've got a drug addicted sex trade worker who's taking Effexor, and I will not get the breakthrough done in 12 hours. Trust me.
Right.
But that's 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30, and I'm learning so much working with her. It's like me. I couldn't have gone on course and anybody stand at the room teach me what she's teaching me as a coach.
Yeah.
So the extra hours now I'm investing in me, and she's taken me right to the edge of my behavioral flexibility. People who know me, I'm pretty behaviorally flexible in a breakthrough. She's taken me right to the edge.
Right.
And so I've learned about myself. My skills have grown. Any client who you're not getting results with is a learning opportunity. So if you put an extra hour in and you're charging $125 an hour, write it off to training and education.
That's perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions about managing our time? Going once? All right, here we go. That's the important piece though, guys, right there. Now you know who your client is. You know how you're going to manage your time. Now you got to go find them. Tanya's a naturopath. Tara's a naturopath. Some of you others. There's nothing better than you putting out content into the universe about your expertise. If you want to up your credibility, start writing blogs or participate in e-zines or anything on your subject, op-ed pieces, articles to associations. You'll be amazed. If you were consulting to help people overcome workplace bullying, they've been bullied in the workplace, and you're going to use your NLP skills to help them get over that and move ahead. You could speak at every HR conference within 200 kilometers of your home, 160 miles for you Americans, 160 miles of your home. So when you're putting out content, you can write 300, 400 word articles on LinkedIn. Content rules. It makes you credible, right? On your website, when you have links to content, you know, here's my article in Psychology Today. Here's my article in the Human Resources Association newsletter. Here's my article. Nothing speaks volumes more than content. And the content is about your avatar, their problems, and your solution. Okay? Content. Then participation is the next channel. Every successful coach I know has joined associations or groups and been part of the group, and inevitably gets asked, what do you do? And when they say what they do, they get 3 or 4 clients. And remember, we have been fortunate enough in our business, we've got 2 to 3 referrals for every 3 to 4 clients. So Tara's first group she joined here was the Mompreneurs. Wherever you are, there will be a Mompreneur group or a Pinkpreneur or something else. So if you're a woman coach and you want to get into a group of people who want to move forward, join a women's entrepreneur group or the IBN, the International Business Network, because business people trying to move forward know about investing in self. So they will invest in coaching. So if that's your avatar, join a group. William Lamb, I've mentioned William Lamb on multiple occasions on this channel. William chose to use NLP to help real estate investors function at a higher level. And he joined a real estate group. Cost of admission, 10 grand. When William did that, he was driving a Mazda 3 and all his credit cards were maxed. William Lamb now lives in a 3,200 square foot house in Scottsdale, Arizona. He's got a 4-car garage with his wife drives a Range Rover. He drives a Porsche GT3. He's got 2 other toys in the driveway. And his classes are full all the time. His coaching is full all the time, right? And a breakthrough with William, a 6-hour breakthrough with William, he calls it a 1-day breakthrough, is $5K US. He knows his avatar, he knows his market, he knew where to find them, and he joined a group of them. And he participated with them, right? Participation is really, really important. The next thing is your opinion. So if you're writing content, you're participating, you should speak. You should publicly speak. And so many associations are desperate, and service clubs desperate for lunchtime speakers, keynote speakers. If you draw a 60-mile or 100-kilometer circle around your home, I'm going to guarantee you there'll be 4 to 6 Rotary clubs. They all take speakers. They buy you breakfast or they buy you lunch. COVID's a bit different, but when we're back rolling, and then you get 18 minutes to present, 2 minutes for questions and answer, right? You become a resource in your community through public speaking to service organizations. HR associations, companies, sales conferences, all need speakers. Become a speaker. If you want to up your credibility, write content, become a speaker. Right? And when you stand up in your participation group every week, you tell them where you spoke last and where your last article was. We have clients around the world. We're really fortunate, but I'm going to tell you 80% of our revenue still comes from within 100 kilometers of where I'm sitting. So I don't need to scale up yet unless I want to be that guy. If I want to be the 8-figure coach, then I have to scale up to global. But at the beginning, I think we master the ground we're in. And then we expand out. You know, I've seen too many coaches blow their brains out on Google ads trying to Google their services globally. And the cost per click, you know, quickly you burn through $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And now the next piece is social media. All social media is not created equally. All social media is not created equally. And you must know your avatar to know where you'll get sales from in the social media. So we ran a Facebook campaign in our local area within 50 kilometers of this office that attracted 15 to 30 leads a week of highly traumatized people who had no income. All right? They're traumatized people, but they have no capacity, no insurance, no support network to pay for the services. They're not my client. And I made them my client by finding a funding source for them. Third party to me. So when they phone and I'm on the discovery call and they want to move ahead, but they have no money, I say, call Kelly at this number. She'll assist you. Third party arm's length to me. Okay. So on Facebook, I do not attract firemen, police officers, EMS, or military. They never respond to my Facebook ads. If I want to get those professional services to respond, I have to do Google ads. I have to SEO so I rank really high. So we talked about market segments on the first week. I said my market segments are those who are fully insured. I just mentioned them. I have to Google ad to catch them. I've got the people who don't have the capacity to pay as a market segment. I Facebook ad for them. All right. All social media is not created equally. Be sure your avatar is in the social media you're spending your money in. And then I think you should delegate all of this because it's so nuanced. Sam and I, my assistant, spent $5,000 US on a course with Sam Ovens to learn the nuances of Facebook ads. And 3 months learning how to place Facebook ads. Think about what I just said, how much we invested. And then I found a company that I paid $1,500 a month to run my Facebook ads, and they generated 15 to 30 leads a week. Which was the better investment? The second. And guess what I can do in the company when I don't like their performance? I can fire them and hire somebody else. All right? Social media people, it's a science, it's an expertise. And because the social media people are writing the algorithms continually in the background, the algorithms are changing continually, you as a coach cannot keep up. Straight up. You will have to give up your coaching career if you want to keep up to the changing algorithms and the changing dynamics of social media. Hire it out. And if you're using Google, hire a Google authorized partner, a Google partner, because they do not charge you a management fee. Google pays them for placing the ad. I use a company out of Montreal called Cyber Publicity. Right? When we were placing Facebook ads, I had to pay a management fee to place the Facebook ads plus the cost of the ad spend. On Google, you don't have to do that if you're working with a Google partner. All right, so there's ways to lower your cost. And there's ways of lowering the effort if you find a savvy person. When you do your Instagram work, it instantly posts to Facebook as well. So you don't have to post here and there and everywhere. If you have a savvy social media person working for you, one piece of content will appear on all platforms. All right, so you need to manage it, and you need to be really clear with your success criteria. How many leads or how many clicks, how many leads, what's the cost per lead? Because it can mount up pretty quickly. And if you're not getting the performance you want, let the provider adjust or terminate them and get a new provider. Right? Get new providers. There are some really savvy players. And you have to find somebody who you resonate with. I've been referred a bunch of social media providers from other coaches. Some of them just don't work for me, and others work really well. All right. Again, to me, this is a delegate and manage by results. For you master practice, be a VL7, manage by results. And then any other medium you want, right? We're actually thinking for our business, for the trauma business, to start advertising on buses. Believe it or not, we're actually thinking about going back old school. So I'm not advertising life coaching or anything like that. If I was Surinder and I was doing smoking cessation, I might think of bus backs, because they are everywhere. The bus moves everywhere. Everybody reads the sign, and it's a common issue. It's a very narrow, focused, common issue. So we're actually considering things like bus advertising. All right. And I'm going to tell you, again, 80% of our clients comes from within 60 miles, 100K of our office. When you focus a Facebook or Google ad like that, and your social media people are doing the right words, you get a lot of response. If you're not getting a lot of response, something's wrong in the steps. So the last piece is you map out all the steps. You're going to do a Google ad that generates a click, and that becomes a lead that you convert. And you have to make sure that every step works. The Google ad has to be producing enough clicks to generate enough leads to allow you to convert at the rate you want to convert to, right? And you might have a constriction anywhere in the flow of your business, and you have to alleviate the restrictions, the constrictions, right? That's your job as a business manager. All right, so those are the channels. So again, I'm always recapping tonight. You have to know who your avatar is. You cannot go into a channel unless you know who your avatar is, what their problem is, and what your solution to their problem is. You cannot, you'll just blow your brains out on everything that comes thereafter. You will waste money. Right, Kathy? It'd be like advertising to the Anti-Caffeine Society if you owned a coffee shop. Why do it? Just do not do it. You must know your clients. You must know their problems. You must be clear about your solution so you can develop content, participate in groups, express your opinion, and get your social media message out to attract leads. If you haven't done that, if you don't know your avatar, their problem, your solution, do not do anything else. You will attract non-clients. You want to attract the people you want. Okay. This is my decision maker. I'm just going to share my decision maker quick, and then I'm going to introduce Surinder. I was taught this by a woman who did military contracts for the United States for Northrop. She actually wrote a book about this. I spent $2,500 to spend 3 days on course with her to learn these 6 steps. 2,500 US. So I'm going to share that with you for free tonight. There's one $2,500 US bonus, okay? It goes like this. I'm going to give you my NLP, my trauma rendition of this. This is always given extemporaneously from the heart. This is a total kinesthetic message. There are very few, if any, statistics in this. This is not you giving a techno-rationalization of the problem or what you do or anything. This is a total K message. All right, I'll be really clear. People decide to buy on K. You have to connect with K first. If they're auditory digital, they might consider, but if you haven't hooked them at K, you won't get to the AD part. Here we go. You know how you know somebody who has trauma. It might be you, it might be somebody you know. The main or the bigger problem is there's a whole industry built around trauma being difficult, if not impossible, to heal. Oh, wait. Sorry. I blew this.
Can you repeat the first one?
I'm going to
One more
repeat
time?
all of it. Here we go. All right. I'm doing this for trauma. You know how you know somebody who has been traumatized. Might be you, might be a neighbor, might be a family member. The bigger problem, or the main problem, is there is an industry built around the belief that trauma is difficult, if not impossible, to heal. Now, you and I both know that when a person's traumatized, they're not doing what they're meant to do. And they struggle, their family struggles, and their community struggles. Imagine a world that a person who is traumatized could be healed of that trauma in as little as 3 90-minute sessions. Imagine them getting back to doing what they're passionate about. Imagine their family thriving and growing. And imagine the community that they're in thriving and growing because they're no longer traumatized. Well, that's actually the world we live in. Today, the leading edge of neuroscience can overcome trauma in as little as 3 90-minute sessions. I'm Alan Canerva. I'm an NLP trainer and I'm a trauma interventionist. And what I'm asking you to do, if you're traumatized, if you know somebody who's traumatized, have them contact me to find out how they can overcome that trauma and heal today. Can I have your commitment to do that? Yes or no? And I shut up and I wait. If they say yes, I say, great, who is it? If they say no, I say, thank you. Thank you for listening. And I walk away. So here's how it goes. You know how, in NLP terms, is the presenting problem. You know how is the presenting problem. You know how so many women in their 40s are changing careers. It could be anything. I'll pick any subject, I'll do it for you. The main problem, so this is the root problem. So presenting problem, root problem. The main problem is that there's an industry that says trauma is difficult, if not impossible, to heal. Number 3 is rapport. You and I both know. If I'm talking to a large group, I say, we all know. And then I put pain after that. We all know that when a person has trauma, they suffer. Their family suffers, their community suffers. All the heads are doing this at this point. Yes, yes, yes. This is Erickson hypnosis. Then the fourth line is imagine. That bypasses the critical faculty. As soon as they're in their imagination, imagining, you're now in their unconscious mind. Imagine a world where trauma can be healed in as little as 3 90-minute sessions. Because, right, so cause and effect, that is the world we live in. Right, so I'm using a lot of Milton language, Milton patterns. And then you say your claim. My name's Alan Canerva. I'm an NLP interventionist. I have over a 90% success rate at people overcoming their trauma permanently. And then you're asked, what do you want from the person? So I'm asking you, if you're traumatized or you know somebody is traumatized, I'm asking you to have them call me so they can find out how they can be trauma-free. Can I have that commitment? Yes or no? Bind. And that's it. All right. Now I've taught this almost on every pace or on every master prac we do. I've offered it to everybody who's ever coached. When I did this on that training in California or in Florida, we literally had to do it, might have been 6 or 8 times each until the whole group gave us a mic drop at the end of it. And you do it until you feel it. This is, again, this is not a logical, and it is Erickson, Milton Erickson enriched. It is NLP for sure. And it blows by the critical faculty, and the people give you a very succinct yes or no. All right. I use this at the beginning of every discovery call. You know how you're traumatized. That's why we're on the phone today. And you know that the system has let you down because that's why we're on the phone today. And the system believes that you cannot be healed. Now, you and I both know you're not living the life you want to lead. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on the phone together, would we? So I want you to just close your eyes and imagine that 3 weeks from now, when we're finished the formal part of a breakthrough, if we're fortunate enough to work together, you will be trauma-free, because that's what can happen. I'm Alan Canerva. I'm an NLP trauma interventionist. I've been doing this for 7 years. I have over a 90% success rate. And what I want from you right now is a commitment to share with me how trauma is impacting you and be open to the possibility that you can heal from trauma. Can I have that commitment? That's how I set the tone and the timbre for the call, or the tone and the tenor for the call. And then we're ready to go. And then we do the discovery call. So 6 points, practice them. They're extemporaneous. Do them over and over again. And you should be able, this literally is an elevator pitch. Right? This is literally an elevator pitch. This is your avatar. This is your solution. This is who you are. This is what you want. Right? And it's such a good process. So many of us talk, but never ask for what we want. I'm sure Surinder is going to talk about that right now. All right, here we go. So here's your big bonus tonight. Surinder Gil's with us. Surinder Gil, I can't even talk, Surinder. Surinder Gil is in the house. And Surinder is a peer of mine. He's also studied with Tara and I. He did his master prac with Tara and I. He's done hypnosis training with us. He's done advanced hypnosis training in a couple different venues. And he has done PACE training with us. And he's taken all that information and created his own protocols, his own methodologies to have a highly successful smoking cessation and weight loss practice. I refer clients to Surinder who have those 2 issues because those are not my wheelhouse and they're his. And he's bloody good at it. And what Surinder has offered to do is put together for the Inspired Outcome community an opportunity to attend, I believe it's a 4-hour workshop on how to move your close rate, how to get your conversion rate to 95%. So Surinder's been good enough to join us tonight to give us a sneak peek at what that might look like. Welcome, Surinder.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alan.
You're welcome, man. Good to see
Yeah,
you.
no, I'm happy to be here. I had this idea, really it came from when I first started doing this, I would get lots of referrals because I was doing good work. And I think a lot of that has to do with what I learned, Alan, from you and Tara, because my success rate, although I was seeing some clients before I did Master Prac with you, the results were not what they turned into, right? So this is like anything, you learn, and then your best teachers become your clients, and then you get better and you get better. So what I noticed as I started to get lots of referrals, I didn't really know how to handle the consultation. And I found that I was saying something different kind of every time. And sometimes I didn't sound all that confident. And the reason I didn't sound confident was because I didn't know what was coming next. So I created, I'm not sure what happened to my screen here.
I spotlight you. I made you heroic.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Okay. And so what I did is I actually created a format, and I thought, I wonder what will happen if I actually follow a format. And initially it started simply because I wanted to sound more confident. It didn't initially start because I thought that I would necessarily get a higher closure rate. I just didn't like the uncomfortable feeling of not really knowing what I was going to say next. And I was self-conscious in the sense that I thought people could detect that I wasn't confident in my abilities.
I want to jump in right there because that's such a powerful thing you said, because people notice our tonality.
Oh, yes.
And when we lose track, remember, tonality is 38% of the communication. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so the 3 points that I really want to touch on, although in 4 hours we'll cover a lot of material, and it's easy to cover a lot of material when you're dealing with practitioners, people who have been trained, especially if they've been well trained. So I'm only offering this particular seminar, Alan, to your people and to Deb's, because I know the quality of the training that the people are getting. And so I know that I can talk at a certain level, and I don't have to, cater to the people that are really, they haven't learned NLP in a way that they necessarily are going to understand what I'm saying. You have to know what a presupposition is. You have to understand that communication is only 7% words. Like those types of things I don't want to have to go over. I want to deal with people that already have that understanding. The one thing is money. I struggled with, do I put money on my website? Do I put my hourly fee on my website? And what I've learned is absolutely not, right? Because you're selling the outcome. And once you get really good at selling an outcome, then it doesn't really matter what your fee is, within reason. It creates another problem, which is not really a problem, but I'll tell you, when I was closing 50, 60% of people, everybody showed up. But when I'm closing 95% of people, now you're bound to get the odd phone call from a person after you've closed about 20 people. You'll get one or two that will say, hey, look at, it's Christmas is coming up. I can't really afford it. I'll maybe consider reaching out to you in the new year. That's just going to happen. Because when you're really, really good at sales and you make it so compelling that the people are like, yeah, I want to sign up. How quickly can I come? There's bound to be, that's why they have the cooling off period for people who sell things like timeshares, because sometimes people will realize the next day that, look, I can't afford this, right? Or they'll talk to their spouse about it and they'll realize that, you did what? We can't afford that. And then I'll get an email. That's okay. That happens. If that happens 1 out of every 20, I still close 19. It's still better than closing 12, which is what I was doing. So that's one thing. We'll talk about really how to bring up the money, when to bring up the money, and most importantly, how to bring it up, right? Actually, you know what? Let's just talk about that now. If I got a little bit of time, Alan, how much do I have?
Absolutely you have time.
Okay.
I know that I'm absolutely sure that all of us, including me, have had the hesitation when they say, how much does this cost?
Yeah, and sometimes you'll get it in email. How much are your services? I got bombarded with that question recently because I had a CTV News did a little story on me with a woman that suffered from agoraphobia for 20 years. And so, she's fine. She walks to work. She's back at work. Everything's fine with her now. And I got a lot of clients out of it, that's for sure. But a lot of them just want to know what the price was. And I refuse to answer those emails in that way. So I've got a very specific way that I answer emails. It's quite hypnotic, that kind of moves people towards what I want them to do. I want to see if they'll follow my direction, right? Like Milton Erickson, we all learned from him as a hypnotist that the yes sets are important, but what comes right after that is compliance. If you can get people to start doing the things that you're saying, and they haven't even met you yet, and they haven't even spoken to you yet, and you can tell them things like, I've helped lots of people with issues similar to yours. I suggest you go to my website, read about how maybe I can help you, and perhaps you'd enjoy watching some of the video testimonials. Next thing you know, the person's on my website. Then they're watching the video testimonials, which is good because it builds my credibility and my prestige in their eyes. But the real reason why I want them to do that is I want them to follow my directions. I want them to get used to doing what I tell them to do. And the more they do that, the less likely they will be to question what I tell them when I actually get on the phone with them, right? So when I do get on the phone with them, I still don't talk about money. I ask them questions, I let them empty out. I got a whole process. And for those of you that join the training, I would highly recommend that you do, because it's free, right? Because whatever you pay me within that week, as long as you're getting people that are inquiring for your services. This is not a seminar to teach you how to get traffic. Alan is the guy to teach you how to do that. I don't do any of that stuff. Everything that comes to me comes through referrals. You know what I do? I take video testimonials of my clients saying, I quit smoking after 50 years. I haven't had a panic attack. I had one lady just recently, I haven't put it on my website or Facebook yet. Panic attack every day for 6 years. She came for one session, done, no more panic attacks. And so I took like a 30-second video, and then I'll take another 30-second video. And then after she goes through the 5-session protocol, I'll compile them and I'll boost that maybe for $100. So I shouldn't say I don't advertise. Those videos that are on my Facebook page, I usually put $100 behind them. So I've got a home office, so I don't go anywhere. I have a little outbuilding behind my house. That's where I do all of my work. And I just, because I have to do taxes, so I had to look at my expenses. I spend $950 in Facebook ads. That's the only advertising I've done all year. And I'm fully booked. I'm booking into the end of January because people come. Well, that's a little extreme because of the CTV news. But even prior to that, I was booked out 3 weeks. And it comes from referrals, right? When you get good results with people, they will scream it from the rooftops. They will tell people you don't have to do very much to get clients. So anyway, going back to money, what I was going to tell you, obviously you have to build rapport with people and you have to enter their model of the world. They've got to feel tight with you before you talk about the money. But the one tip that I'll give you is when you do talk about the money, be careful that you don't have some kind of pause or hesitation that's detectable, right? Like you're going along and you're saying, yeah, and then it's 5 sessions. And then the final session after the 3rd session, I usually space them out a couple of weeks. And so the fee is $150 an hour. They catch that, right? Because you're talking at a certain speed and a certain pitch and tone. And then all of a sudden, because you feel hesitation, you change it and they pick up on it, right? What you want them to pick up on is that this is a perfectly normal and acceptable fee in this industry and people are paying it. How do you get them to feel that? Well, for one, if you get them to go on your website and you've got some video or written testimonials and you draw their attention to it, that's creating for them social proof that there's other people out there that are willing to pay this for the service. People like to do what other people have already told them is acceptable. There's a reason why. What does McDonald's have on their sign now? Like 1 billion served or something, right? When other people are doing something in droves, we just tend to feel like, well, that's what people do, right? So I guess it's normal. The last thing you want is them comparing your hourly rate to other professionals, right? Because chiropractors don't charge $150 an hour, massage therapists, physiotherapists, all people that have more formal education and credentials than people like me, but they don't command that kind of an hourly rate. So I think what's a good idea to do is to have that planned out and rehearsed so that it flows, so that when it comes out, and you have to say it at the right time, but when it comes out, you draw their attention to something else and you do that right away. So an example of something, of a way to do that might be, okay, so my fee is $150 an hour. All I ask for is a $100 deposit. And I don't even charge you that unless you cancel with less than 12 hours notice, right? So if you give me more than 12 hours notice, there's no cancellation fee. Sometimes what I've noticed is my wait list is very responsive. So I blast out a text and say I've had a cancellation. I can sometimes fill your spot. And if that happens, I don't even charge the $100 fee. What happens is the person's mind automatically goes to, all he cares about is this $100 deposit and whether or not I'm going to lose it and the cancellation policy. He skipped right over the $150 hour fee. So that must not be that important. His previous clients must all have an issue with this whole cancellation policy of his. That's why he's spending so much time talking about it. You're directing their attention rather than allowing their attention to go somewhere where you don't want it to go. You don't want them fixated on the hourly rate. You've already done all the work of selling an outcome, right? If you sell an outcome that a person feels like, wow, that would be worth $10,000. If I could have that outcome, if I didn't have to have my heart pounding out of my chest every time somebody asked me to go to the campsite and I'm halfway there and then I have a panic attack and I have to get my husband to drive me home. That's another one, by the way. She wouldn't give me a video, but I have her audio. She hadn't left the house for 20 years. She'd never been to their camp. They had a camper, never seen the inside of it. 3 psychiatrists. She said, I have agoraphobia. I said, I'll help you, come to my office. She said, I have agoraphobia. How am I going to get to your office? So I had to go to her place. And you know what I did? I hypnotized her. And I just stood up and said, grab your shoes, let's go for a walk. Full intention behind that. It's happening, right? Milton Erickson right there. If you hold the intention strongly enough, long enough, it'll just become real. So I started walking the door. She got up, she put on her shoes. I took her for a walk. We went 3 blocks from her house. And I said, you know, tell me how great you feel. And she said, yeah, nothing's happening. And I said, well, I thought you had agoraphobia. She goes, well, the doctors told me I did. I said, well, they were wrong. Well, 3 of them told me that. And I said, well, obviously they're wrong, because if you had agoraphobia, shouldn't your heart be pounding out of your chest? Isn't that what you told me happens when you're not around your house? She just looked around amazed. And I walked back and I said, don't move until I get to your front step. And when I wave you over, and then she came over, right? So when you talk to people about an outcome like that and you explain to them, I love what you just showed us, Alan, about imagine that future, because you have to evoke an emotion in a person, right? If you can get someone to cry or be close to tears in the consultation, not because you're traumatizing them, but because you're filling them with such hope, they're signing up. They're signing up. It's happening at that point, right? So you got to be careful about when you bring it up. You want to bring it up at the right time, and you want to bring it up in a scripted way that flows off your tongue. I recommend that you draw their attention to something else immediately after, right? So you're talking at a certain speed, you're moving along, you bring up your hourly rate, and then you switch gears. And now you're talking about something different. Maybe you're talking about, I have a private waiting room. I know privacy is important. And then what happens to the person is they think, oh, so what's important is that this whole privacy thing. Maybe it's not important to me, but it must be important to other people. Right? So it's a little more to it than that, but I'm giving you enough that you can actually leave today and use something rather than just coming here and trying to sell you on a course. I'd like you to be able to leave and say, okay, I got something out of that, whether you choose to sign up for the course or not. The checklist is important so you don't miss anything, right? Sometimes when we get talking to people and we hear their story, we start to ad lib a little bit, and that's okay. You want to be flexible in your communication, but it's helpful to have a checklist in front of you so that, and you might skip certain things, but there's certain things that might be really important for that person to hear, and you want to make sure that you hit it. And no matter how many I do and how good I get at it, I always keep a checklist with me, right? And utilizing what the person says and then incorporating that into how you are going to address them is a real big part of that checklist. You got to make some notes, right? You got to make a little, I have VAK in the top corner. So as the person's talking and start to assess, is this a person that's incredibly kinesthetic, auditory, or visual, right? Because how are you going to build rapport unless you do all of the basic NLP things that we know? It's very difficult to build rapport if you ignore the basics and the fundamentals. And if people have some idiosyncratic speech patterns and stuff, as long as it's something that works, right? If it's really idiosyncratic, you don't want to use it. But if somebody says something like, I just feel bogged down, right? I just feel bogged down. If you repeat it instantly, it might sound a little bit odd, right? And anybody who studied even a little bit of NLP, that's the other thing, is a lot of people know this stuff, they'll catch it. I just make a little note on my checklist, right? You don't have to say it right now. Sometimes the consults are 40 minutes long. Then you can mention it towards the end. And then as you imagine yourself back at work, enjoying life, that feeling that you used to have when you were bogged down, that'll be a thing of the past. So all of those rapport building things, this is why, Alan, I really like the idea of presenting this content to people that are well trained already, so that I can just say echo, they know what I mean, right? I can talk about, entering their preferred sensory perception, talking to them in that way, and people know what I mean, right? Because some NLP training, I mean, as you know, feels not regulated. Anybody can call themselves an NLP trainer, right? And it doesn't mean that they're really good at what they do, not like the way you guys are. Then the closing. The closing is really important because a presupposition built into the closing, I think, is critical. And if everything is set up nicely up until that point, the presupposition will be the thing that closes the deal, right? So I don't know if, Alan, that little video I sent you, if you watch it again, or if you send it to the folks that are on this call, there's a presupposition that I built into the end of that. I think, I don't remember exactly what I said now, but it's something what I usually say is, I'm convinced that you and I should work together and I can help you. I'm just wondering if you've got any questions, or how many questions you need answered before you're equally as convinced. And so the presupposition is that they're going to have questions. And once those questions are answered, they're going to be equally as convinced, right? And although some of this stuff, I know that when we talk about influence like this, it can almost sound sneaky. I want to address that. I never, ever encourage a client to work with me unless I feel very strongly that they're going to get way more value than the money that I'm going to charge them. And because sometimes we do get people like that, right? When you hear people say things, I had one lady say to me, well, my mother said I have to quit drinking. Like I can't live here anymore if I don't quit drinking. So my mother's paying for this. I said, that's not how it works. She ended up sending me an e-transfer, and I called her and I said, what is this? She goes, well, my mother said I have to do at least one session. Right? I could have taken $300 off her and sat her down knowing she's going to fail. I sent the money back. I said, no, because we have to, if you're going to have a business and you're going to be successful long-term, you have to be ecological. It's got to be good for everybody. It really does. It's got to be good for you. It's got to be good for your client, for their family, for everyone. And if you think that using this type of, these hypnotic language patterns as a way to trick people into giving you money, you're not going to be successful. Well, first of all, you're not going to sleep soundly at night. I do. My head hits the pillow. I don't move a muscle. Well, I'm 50 years old, so I get up and go to the bathroom once. But other than that, I feel great about what I do. And I think the more ecological you can be and the more genuine you can be, and your desire to help people is really, where your heart is, then you'll have clients. You'll have clients, and they will pay you that fee. And I think you should also set a fee that you feel is what you're worthy of, and that the people are going to get a benefit that's more than what you're charging. And if you are, then what's the problem with that, right? When you have clients leaving saying, wow, I would have paid 10 times that. This is great, right? I'm going to tell my mother she should come see you because I have no desire to smoke now. When you hear that, I don't have any guilt about that, about charging them. They're going to save a heck of a lot more money than I've ever charged them because of the money that they were spending on cigarettes, right? Another good thing that you can use if you're a person that helps people quit smoking is when they ask you the fee, one of the things I say to them is, well, for you, it's free, because once you quit smoking, it's not going to be very long before the money that you pay me is going to be recouped. And then after that, it's just pure savings, right? So it's kind of like I'm paying you, right? Get them laughing. I liked, Alan, and in closing, what I'll just mention is, I do like what you said about that emotion, right? I think it's really important that in the close, somewhere prior to the close, you have to experience that person's been touched emotionally to some degree. right? It can't really go into too much right now about how to achieve that. That would be, we'd be opening up a whole can of worms. But that's something that I do listen for. I need people to say things to me like some of the things I routinely hear are, oh, it's like you're in my head, right? That's emotional. If a person's communicating with a stranger on the phone and they feel that understood, right? They feel like, my gosh, this person on the other end of the line, actually, finally somebody that understands me. That's emotional. That's emotional. Whether you can hear the emotion in their voice or not, you know from the words that you've touched that person emotionally. If they say things like, well, I had one woman that cried recently and I said, you okay? And she said, I haven't felt hope like this in years, right? Now that's an obvious one. She's actually crying, and she's crying because she's full of hope. People will say things to you and you'll get good at it. Once you get good at it, you'll hear these things all the time. Alan, I'm sure you hear this stuff all the time from people. Probably some of those exact words, right? Like, you're in my head. How often do you hear that, right? And you'll hear this stuff in sessions too, right? One of the things that I routinely say to people when people have that limiting belief of just unworthiness, they just don't feel good enough. And I'll say something like, and let me take a guess. You don't like compliments. They make you uncomfortable, don't they? How did you know? Just a hunch, right? And because people are predictable, they think in patterns. And once you figure out those patterns, their behaviors are, they're patterns as well. So it's not that hard to predict how it is that they're doing things, but you're never going to get there unless you be quiet at the beginning of the consultation. The person needs to empty out a bit. And I know that the way I used to be is I was like, I got to listen to this for how long, right? I just want to tell you about my brilliance, and then you'll realize how great I am, and then you'll come and be my client. It doesn't work as well, right? Because until people have emptied out and until they feel that you understand them, right, they're not going to be open to influence from you. But once they have that connection, and that's where that rapport is so important, right? You can't get away from the fundamentals of NLP. I'm not going to come in and teach you anything that's brand new, to be honest, that Alan hasn't already taught you. I'm going to package it a little differently. I'm going to give you maybe some other resources and some tools. And the benefit of those, as long as you are getting consultation requests, right? Like I told you before, if you have no social media, you don't have business cards, and you got no presence, then don't sign up for this. Because you have to have something going on where you're at least getting some people requesting to have a conversation with you. If you have that, then I can definitely help you, close them at a higher rate and enjoy the process of having the consultation. Actually look forward to it, right? And then you'll just hone your skills and you get better and better at it. So that's it in a nutshell. Considering you asked me to do this a little while ago, and this is what I wrote down. There it is.
Beautiful.
I made some notes as you were talking, saying I got to talk about this now.
That's perfect. And before we go to Q&A, Surinder, I'd just like first thank you so much. And you said so many things in there that I caught on. When we bought that course from Sam Oven, the $5,000 course, one of the things he had in there was a sales script. And of course, I'm selling all the time. Sam learned Sam Oven's sales script, which had steps in it, things you needed to cover. And then we enmeshed that with the NLP 5-step selling process. And Sam became an amazing converter, amazing closer. And so I totally agree with that. And I think what Surinder said that's so powerful about charging money for your services, what Surinder said, what I heard him say without him saying it verbatim, was he's talking to people who need his services. He knows who his people are. The person who connects with Surinder for a discovery call is smoking, overweight, or anxious, right? They have an issue that's holding them back in their life. So when Surinder gets that person on, that avatar comes to his discovery call, I know him well. He's motivated to help them overcome their issue. That's the driving force, right? And that speaks volumes. And I love the connection, of course, to NLP, but I love the connection to Milton Erickson as well. I mean, I think you could do all of us, each of us could do ourselves a world of good by continually reconnecting to Milton Erickson's philosophies, as well as his actual patterns of language. And one of the things I'll share before we go to Q&A is, Surinder said you must be leading the client must be following, right? That's how it has to work. As soon as the client starts leading, you're no longer coaching, you're following. You have to coach from the front, and you have to have behavioral flexibility to allow the client to emote the way they need to emote, but then you have to steer the process. And I've learned a subtle technique that is Erickson based. It's his questions, his tag question technique. So I know where I'm going to go next. So I'm leading the process, and I ask the client's permission to do that. Hey, I'd like to tell you about my services right now and how the protocol works and what it'll cost you. Would that be okay? And then they say, yes, it's okay for me to tell them, right? They're actually not acquiescing, they're acknowledging and endorsing that they're now going to get my information and my price, and it's okay, right? And it's amazing when you ask people's permission to do things, even though you're the coach and you're leading, and whether it's the discovery call or when you're working with them, how much more traction you get. Let's open up the floor. Anybody who has any questions for Surinder, turn on your mic, please. Ask away. If you don't ask questions, he's going to charge me $100. You guys are quiet tonight. Can't believe it.
I must have answered any questions. I'm sure everybody had questions written down. I just kept talking and I answered the questions for them.
Well, I'm amazed. You convinced them so well that they didn't ask the price of the seminar, the webinar.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, so the price would be $295.
There you go. $295. Yeah. And how long does it take to recruit $295 at $150 an hour? 2 hours.
Yeah, and
call.
Absolutely. There's no question that, and I'm so confident that if you do this, that your closure rate's going to go up. I have no problem I don't do money back guarantees on anything except this type of thing. If in the first hour you say, this is a waste of my time, all you got to do is sign out and send a message in the chat box saying, refund, and I'll send you the money back. Because I know that within the first hour, first half hour, you're going to feel that you've got your money's worth already because of what you're going to convert it into, because of what you're going to turn it into. And it's not just, the whole seminar that I've created is really about the consultation for close, but it gives you so much confidence that you're just going to get better results, right? Because a lot of the things that I'm going to show you and teach you are things that are going to relate to how you actually interact with your clients in a session, right? In a session. A lot of the language patterns can be applied anywhere and everywhere. I'm a hypnotist, but I'll be honest with you. Now what I do, the way I do things now, Alan, and you might not even know this, but I spend 11 hours is what I sell. Sometimes so 5 sessions, first session's 3 hours, and then I do 4 2-hour sessions. And in the consultation, I mention to people if they have trauma, if they've got some memory that when they access it, they have an adverse physiological response they can't control, then I need to book them in for a 90-minute additional session, right? And then I do that trauma work that I learned from you, along with a couple of other things. 90 minutes is enough. I've never, ever had a person that has left after doing that session and not said to me that they have no physiological response whatsoever. Never. It's never happened. I've had some pretty horrendous cases, as I'm sure we all have had. Right. And so there's other things when it comes to hypnotic language patterns that you can blend in, not only in the consultation, but even in your written communication, the email response, your website, and then, of course, in your actual sessions with people. Right. Presuppositions are really powerful. And pacing and leading and the yes sets and all that kind of stuff. It's not just for the consultation. So as you learn these things that many of you have already learned, but when you do prac training or master prac, it's a pile of information that comes flying at you in a short period of time, right? And if you're not one of those people, like I was one of those people that went back to the manuals and I just became obsessed with it. And it was, like I haven't been to the gym since without listening to either a podcast or watching some training or something. That's all I do. And that's just the way I am. But not everybody's like that. I know that. And so those people are going to need a little bit of a refresher. And some of the things that you've learned, you need to see them applied, I think. Right? I think you need to see them applied. And then you need to practice a little bit, and breaking up into groups. 4 hours is enough time that you can take some of that stuff and you can break up into groups of 3 and you can practice a little bit. But nothing, I mean, who said this? Was it Wayne Dyer that said nothing changes till something changes? Somebody said that. It's a famous quote. I quote it all the time. I should really find out who said it. But nothing changes until something changes, right? You can learn all of this stuff, but until you apply it, your results aren't going to get any better. And I think that's why NLP training works so well, is because you're breaking up into groups and you're actually practicing what you learn.
Absolutely.
And then you start to feel it and something shifts and you go, oh, that did feel a little bit different when that person repeated my words back. If you don't have that experience in a classroom, I believe the odds of you actually using any of this information out in the field, I don't think they're good. I don't think, for most people, I don't think that they're very good. Utilization. I think, Alan, when you talked about Milton Erickson, that's incredibly powerful. How many times do you have a person on a phone for a consult and they'll say something to you like, well, I'm really analytical, so I don't think this will work for me, right? And then you utilize that. That's exactly why I want you to hear what I have to say next, because you are analytical, aren't you? Yes, I am. And then you just utilize, well, this is exactly why it's going to work for you. And if somebody were to say to me, well, I don't think this will work for me, I don't really have very much of an analytical mind, right? That's exactly what I wanted to hear. You know what? You're just checking all the boxes, because I don't work with everybody, right? I do lots of consultations. I'm picky about who I work with, and you're checking all the boxes. I really want to work with you. And so whatever it is that they say, figure out a way to utilize it, right?
Surinder,
Yeah.
can you take a moment and just go in the chat room and put a message out to everybody, how they can refer smoking cessation or any other client that they feel is not in their wheelhouse that you might better serve, right? Somebody asked for your link for smoking.
Oh, I see it there. Yeah.
So
Okay.
just if you put your contact information into the group, that would be marvelous. Some of you guys, when we've been on training, ask me if we do hypnotherapy here. And I always joke that I don't do hypnotherapy, but my clients are in trance for 2 hours every time I work with them. Right.
Is your seminar live? And what is the date of it?
I told you.
I know. So where this started was when I had a conversation with Deb, who we affectionately refer to as Deeb. And
Deeb in New Zealand.
Yeah, in New Zealand. And so I've got an email out to her, and she's going to give me back some dates because she wants to participate in it. And Alan, with you, I'm not sure if you want to participate in it or if you're just, if it doesn't matter to you. But I have to wait for her to see what date works for her. She's got a prac training that she's doing in New Zealand in January. And so some of the clients might come from that. So it'll probably be late January or early February. And
so Deb is controlling all of us now, because it's Deb's prac that's controlling my pace dates at the end of January. I'm launching.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So we're all waiting for Deb to get her next grad group through so they can go into the next series of courses. So Deeb has control.
Yeah, so that's the best I can give you right now. But as soon as I hear from her, maybe I'll reach out to her tomorrow, or I'll send her a message here tonight.
I just like to commit that we'll get dates up by Friday. Deeb knows when things are happening. So her and Deb already have their dates hard. So if we could put stuff up by Friday, I think that would meet everybody's needs.
Yeah, no, I can definitely do that. And so the hypnosis I was talking about, I do these 5 sessions. I put people in trance for 90 minutes out of 11 hours. Like what you would consider to be a hypnotic trance. Like, this is the hypnosis chair, sit down, close your eyes, make them so that they can't move their legs, make them so they can't remember their name, that kind of stuff. 90 minutes, that's it. And when I first started, I didn't think I would. I thought that, well, I'm a hypnotist, so I bring people in, I'm going to hypnotize them, and that's what they're paying me for, and that's what I do. But when you've compromised somebody's critical faculty and you've made them really suggestible, that's what hypnosis is. So, and I remember you saying that, Alan, on prac training, and I got to be honest, I don't think I got it at the time. I don't think I got it at the time, because at that time I hadn't done prac training. I hadn't done master prac training, and I hadn't done PACE, and I didn't have that much experience at that time working with clients. But I just started to reduce the amount of actual hypnosis I'm doing. Now, I believe there's tremendous value in being a hypnotist, and I think it's a great skill to have. But I think that conversationally, you can achieve a lot. And the reason that I do the actual hypnosis is because it's good for marketing, I think. Because when people leave and they say things like, well, he told me that I couldn't stand up and I don't know what was wrong, my legs wouldn't work. That kind of stuff gets them talking. It tells a story, right? I do this thing where I just did it with a lady before. That's why I was late. She's got a flying phobia. And so I did this exercise where I make them walk, but I tell them at some point with their critical faculty compromised that their feet are stuck to the floor. And once they've said that a few times and I get the indicators that it's worked, then I tell them, okay, try to move forward now. It's hilarious to watch because they're trying to move their feet, but they can't, right? They cannot move. Like they might actually fall over, but they won't be able to move their feet. And then as soon as you detect that, okay, they might be able to soon, then I just quickly jump in and say, oh, 1, 2, 3, they move now. Snap my fingers and then they move and they give me all the credit. But these are the kind of things that I think are really useful. Now, was she in a trance? No. I just used some hypnotic language patterns, closed her eyes, paced her and led her a little bit, told her to wiggle her shoulders and notice that her entire body relaxes. I paced her breathing with her. That's it, right? And then now she's in a trance. Now, if you were to ask her, are you in a hypnotic trance? She would have said no. But then when I tell her that she can't move her feet won't move because I told her feet won't move. What does that tell you? It tells you that she's in a trance because she's suggestible. You don't have to be a real skilled hypnotist to do that. You just have to know a few little things, right? And I know that hypnosis training is pretty extensive because hypnosis training is typically given to people that don't have any NLP training. And so, because I took hypnosis training and there's people in the room that had no NLP training. So a lot of the stuff, it was a waste of my time, I felt. I mean, it's never a waste of time because you always learn something. But it would have been so much nicer if they were NLP trained people from a good school, because then you could do a 2 or 3 day hypnosis training and you could create some real incredible results for practitioners and how they communicate with their clients, whether they actually want to call themselves a hypnotist or not. You don't have to, right? You don't have to do things like telling them that they're going to drop into a trance and that they're really tired. You can do all of this conversationally once you have the skills. So there's a little bit of a sales pitch for something that's coming, because that's something that I would love to do. I'm not too crazy about training hypnosis from scratch, where I've got some NLP trained people and some that are completely brand new. That seems like a trend with me. I'm the same way with this. I want to train people that have NLP training already. But that's something that, Alan, you and I are kind of having this conversation in front of everyone. But I think it's something we should explore for the future, because I would love to do training like that, right? Especially for your PACE people.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that you can do by utilizing some hypnotic language patterns, and you don't have to go all the way into that deep trance. You can get people there in literally 60 seconds. And you do it all the time. You just don't do any convincers, right?
Well, maybe.
You do? I wasn't sure if you did. Sometimes maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everything now is subtle, right? Everything's subtle. And I don't know why I chose to do it that way. What I want to do is just, I want to go around the room quickly and see if anybody has any questions for Surinder about this workshop. Surinder will give us the information on the date. I'll make sure it goes out to everybody on the same channel. And then if there are no questions for me or Surinder about the upcoming training, then I'd like to open the floor if you have any questions about clients or other things that are on the forefront here. Any questions for Surinder? Or did he trance you guys all out? Compromised your critical faculty. The whole lot of you. This is horrible, Surinder. Look at them. They're in a trance.
I'm just reading through all the comments. I just read the most recent ones, but
Yeah, answer inside. They want to know if you'll record it. So,
um,
okay.
I don't know. I haven't really given that much thought, to be honest.
If it's live online, it's easy to do, and we can just make it available to the people who signed up for it so they can review it later.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
So I'll just answer that.
All right. Anybody
Thank
have questions about anything else in life? Let's go around the room. Ashley has a thumbs up. How's Chatty Cathy in South Carolina? And I'm not being derogatory towards Kathy. That's the name of her cafe, the Chatty Cathy Cafe.
Yeah.
Things are good, Kathy? Turn on your mic.
Yeah, the coffee shop's doing really well. I'm getting ready to start some trainings in there. I'm getting a lot of questions about my classroom in the front of the coffee house. People are saying, so what's going on there? What's that for?
Oh, yeah. Well, sit down, but don't sit down unless you're ready to take a course now. Cool. So Kathy, for those of you who don't know, is an NLP trainer, and she's in South Carolina, and she has a log house cafe. I'm so envious. So she owns her own cafe where people come and go, and she has a training room inside her cafe, and the cafe is called Chatty Cathy. So I'm envious that somebody owns a cafe, and because in my bucket, the last thing I want to own is a coffee shop where I just talk to people all day. That's my dream. So there you go. You already have my dream, Kathy. Ouch.
Well, I have a question for you, Alan.
Yes.
So we talked about the value ladder for me. We talked
Yeah.
about my kind of clients and the value ladder. And
Yes.
so I had that on the board in the classroom. And I think I also told you about a semi-famous person I know in my circle of people. Anyway, he came to visit me and saw the whole setup, and he took a picture of the value ladder. And he said, if you do this and run a beta group and get testimonies and have pictures with your room all filled up and all that, he says, I'll promote you. So that was super exciting.
Nice.
So I do want to get together with you and online here and talk to you about making that happen for sure.
Okay. You know where to find the link. If not, just reach out and I'll send it to you again.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So Kathy's issue when she took over the cafe in terms of her NLP and her training, she didn't know who her avatar was. So you can't build a value ladder if you don't know who your client is, right? You have to build a value ladder that's appropriate to the client.
Right. Yeah, that was very helpful.
Value ladder is a sequence of things you sell to clients that moves the client, that engages the client. So it attracts the client, then it retains the client, and then the client gives you referrals, right? And that's the non-ladder definition of the value ladder. Cool. Anybody else? Somebody else have something going on? So I've reached out to, for this client who's on Effexor, I've reached out and asked people, the interesting thing is I know two people now have come off the drug Effexor recently. One took 9 months to wean off. She's a critical care nurse. She weaned herself off Effexor over 9 months. She said that the withdrawal symptoms were incredible, horrible. And I've got another client who just got off Effexor after being on it for 20 years. Can you imagine that? And then started having anxiety.
What is it, Alan?
It's an anti-anxiety drug. Antidepressive, anti-anxiety drug. And so it's interesting that, and I'm sharing this with you guys, that, you have two naturopaths on here, Tanya and Tara Guzzo, that I think that we leverage the value of our healing, because I don't know that I can complete this young woman's healing at the level that's possible unless she gets her nutritional micronutrients back in line, right? And some of the micronutrients that when you start looking into the effects of some of these drugs that are administered are quite extensive. So it takes quite a bit of rebalancing. And I think as a coach that you really improve your skill set when you connect to people like Tanya or Tara, and you can access them for their services, for their naturopathic doctor services to help out with some of your clients as well. So, you know, we're all life coaches in here, but some other people have some other gifts here as well. So I thank Tanya and Tara for being here and for also for your service. Any other people want to talk about their clients? It's 8:30 here tonight.
I do. I have one.
Okay, Ashley.
Thank you. So I cleared anger for a client and started going into the big five actually before I elicited the strategy for anger.
Yeah.
Is it too late or would it make sense for me to still do that?
When you say they have you want to elicit their strategy for anger because they have an anger management problem, or that's their presenting problem?
So the presenting problem is definitely an anger management issue, and I don't know. So I don't know what to do about the strategy part if I would do that.
Yeah, eliciting a strategy for a problem. I like the term Surinder used, compromises their critical faculty. When you elicit a strategy, the person is both associated as participant in the strategy and as observer. It's a very, very unique position that's well beyond the critical faculty. And so when you elicit that strategy, the person actually gets really, really in touch with how they do their problem from trigger to behavior. And when you have that, when you get them in that mode, then you can then ask questions like, how long have you done it? You know, what emotions were present when you did this behavior? And you learn more because anger is anger, and the behavior of anger is the symptomology, but there may be things like problems underlying it, like I feel unworthy and therefore I defend myself by lashing out. I feel insecure, so I lash out. So eliciting the strategy, Ashley, even though you cleared anger, you could still elicit his strategy for how he does his anger behavior. And I think it would be highly beneficial. I think
Yay.
there's no downside to that. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah.